All right, so today we're going to talk about sales because the fact is, sales is everything in business, every part of life. And as an actor, I quickly learned how my acting skills helped me in sales in so many ways. So it really doesn't matter what industry you're in. Listen, if in anything, if you're a wife and you don't have a job and you're at home, you have to be a salesman. If you have kids, you got to learn how to sell them. This is what you're having for dinner tonight. And these green beans are really good to eat. So everybody has to sell. When your husband comes home, or if you're the husband at home, you got to sell your wife what you got accomplished today. Yes, I did the laundry. I made the beds. Whatever it is, if you're a stay-at-home dad, if you're a kid in school, we learn very early on in elementary school how to sell our parents. We're selling them every day. Yes, I'm studying hard. I'm going down the street to Johnny's house because we're gonna go ride our bikes and do whatever. You've got to sell. So we learn early on, sales is key. And in every business, any idea you have, think about it. Everybody's got these ideas. They're gonna go Shark Tank, and they're gonna be in their yacht next week because their idea is so big. But you got to remember this. So your idea, first of all, you got to sell it. And everything has to have a story. So what I would suggest, and is the most important thing today, especially with social media, because it's global sales now. We don't just talk to one or two individuals, but everything has to have a story. So make sure when whatever it is you're selling, think of it as a 3-act play. All right, you're going to take this person that you're talking to on this ride, this story, because story is everything. You can go right in. You can say, yes, I got this mug and I'm going to sell it to you. It's $1.95, right? The difference is there's a lot of mug makers out there, so you got to make this mug the best ever. Why do I want this mug? Well, it's a podcast mug. So anyway, whatever that story is, you want to create it, especially if you're going to go pitch your brand new idea. Not only, do you have to have the nuts and bolts behind it. Why is this product going to be good? But you want a story, and you want to be able to weave that story to whoever you're selling it to, articulately, creatively, have fun with it, believe in that product. There's many different ideas on it. Today in social media, you'll see you got to have the hook. Hook them in 2 seconds or they're going to scroll past you. That's a pretty scary thing. So you see a lot of crazy stuff, You see people on the internet going, okay, well, the key things is stop what you're doing now, right? They want to get your attention. The next thing is, this mug is the most horrible mug on the planet. Talk bad about the product, but then spin it around to something good. So there's these different ideas on social media, and my 19-year-old and 21-year-old kid will give you every reason how to hook them in the first 2 seconds. But it's important. A guy like me, depending on what age you are, you or the platform that you're selling them on, the hook is different, right? I weave you a little bit different story. And I tell you all this for one reason, because our guest today is not only a great storyteller, but he is huge in sales. He worked his way up to be a national sales manager. And I'm excited to have him on, and he's going to talk about how he took his career, right, in sales. Now, he's a big, handsome guy, so he's also been on TV, and he's done a lot of auditioning, and he's been out there. So he had to learn, too, not only a great salesman in products and what he's currently the national sales manager on, but when you're auditioning, you got to do the sales thing. All right, so I want to introduce my good friend, Travis Hitzeman. Hey, Travis.
Tommy, good to see you.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You know, I was talking about sales, and that's such an important factor in all parts of life.
Right.
Do you see that, as you're a national sales manager, but you have kids? Do you get what I'm talking about when I say 100%. Everything is sales?
We always like to say ABS. And everyone say, what is that? Well, it's always be selling, no matter what you're doing. Whether you're selling, you said it perfectly in the opening. You're selling to kids. You're persuading people to succumb to your beliefs or your product or your desire, whatever it is. No matter, you hear people say all the time, well, I'm not a salesman. Yeah, I'm not a salesman. But I'm like, tell me about your day, and they will explain what they do, how they care their life. You're like, you sell all day. Everybody sells literally all day long. People just, don't understand they're doing it. Or they just don't, it takes a lot of practice and it takes a lot of, courage, I guess is the word, or just to hone the skills to understand, and the confidence to put your foot, take that step forward to actually to sell and knowing that you're selling.
That's, I think, the difference, knowing the goal that you're going after. Right. I have a great friend I grew up with. This dude had the golden tongue. And he didn't know what he was doing. He was just a fun guy.
Right.
And he would just bring you right into his world, and he could sell anything. Wasn't meaning to be a hustler. And, you said something which was fascinating. Succumb to your will. Well, not really. We want people to love it.
Right.
Whatever that is.
You want people to be excited about what they believe in.
Yes. They want, and that's, I think, the art, right? If you get them going, okay, I'm going to buy it, right? No, we want them to buy it because they need it and they want it and they got to have it because this sweater is going to look awesome on them. You know what I mean?
You don't want to think about it too long because they'll start getting reasons in their mind to change, and that's what a good salesman does. He talks openly, truthfully, everybody labels a used car salesman as the worst job, the worst person in the world. Well, I know a lot of used car salesmen that are good people, and they have the gift of gab, and they're family men, and they're respectable, and that play on words has always been like, it's not really a fair judgment for those people.
No, they're not lying and tricking you.
Right.
Maybe they
sometimes,
did. Sometimes they got to close that deal.
Right.
And that brings us on to a good subject because you're the national sales manager for Ferguson.
Ferguson Fire and Fabrication, newly appointed. Actually, it's a director of sales. Same concept, but yes.
Yeah, so you have to deal with a lot of salesmen.
I do. We have 65, give or take, within the fire organization.
Yes.
And then we have sales managers that manage parts of the different districts and manage those groups. So I work with the sales managers. I was a sales manager for 16 years and was newly appointed right before sometime in November. So I'm really kind of grasping my new role and how to influence rather than sell, and it's all the same, but influencing and really aligning, I guess, so to speak, on our goals for the company and what our initiatives are.
You're selling a philosophy that they can then take and motivate their team to.
Right, and a lot of it's team building. A lot of it is just keeping the excitement up. The drive. It's very easy, especially when you're in outside sales, to get distracted. You wake up every day and you ultimately make your own schedule. You have the ability to get up and say, I'm going to get out and make sales calls today. I'm going to drive business, or I'm going to turn on TV and watch one of Tommy Habib's TV shows. That's what do you want to do?
Please do that. Go watch it. No, so your guys are the ones that are turning it off. That's the problem.
Right.
I need more viewers.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, guys, get to work.
That's right. That is a pretty tall order for you at the top of the pyramid to now drive that down. But the important thing, I bet, and let me see if I got this right, you came up through the ranks.
Yeah.
Right? So you know what it's like to be that guy setting his own schedule.
100%.
And are there guys that come into national sales jobs and not have come up through their ranks?
I would imagine.
God, that would be a tougher spot because you don't know those people.
Organization, very fortunate for the company I work with. love to hire within, love to utilize their own talent. So I can't really answer that honestly, but I'm sure it happens on the regular.
No, I mean, I've met national sales guys and I met CEOs
Right.
that work in huge, say, retail or the entertainment business, like entertainment, hospitality, and they don't even know what it's like to check somebody in at one of their own hotels.
Right. Yeah.
And they don't even know what it's like.
They have the degree, so to speak, right?
Yes.
And they've got all that, but they don't necessarily have the life experience. And, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It just, it depends on that drive of the person. And if they're a true salesman, I guess, people say you can sell anything. And that's true. It's true once you're educated in it and you have belief in yourself, because first and foremost, you have to believe in yourself and believe in your product. And, those are the key fundamentals of a good salesperson right there.
All right, let me ask you a question. Do you ever go back in the field to go on a call with a salesman?
Yeah. I mean, that a true salesperson does not ever want to give that up, just for the sake of, in our industry, it's the people that is what I love the most about it. I always call it a good old boy network, So the people,
but there's a lot of women in it. I've met them.
There's a few. I mean, it's pretty light on the women, but there's a few. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've hired some of my best salespeople are women in a construction world industry and that's not an easy path because they take a lot of, unnecessary comments and stuff that we have to work our way through. But it really speaks to their drive and their ability to navigate through those kind of.
Why do you find it important to actually go to the boots on the ground and work with them?
Well, because that's where you get the true feedback. That's where you get the nuts and bolts of what our strengths or weaknesses are. You get the true response from the guys in the field. I'm assuming you're talking about the customer, not necessarily my sales team. Yeah. So, and you don't want to separate from that because it was a hard transition for me as I went from outside sales to a sales manager, and now again to district manager or district sales manager. I'm sorry, director of sales. Was just further and further away from the customer base because I had built my career, my reputation with my customer relationships, and every time I would take another step to the top, my phone would be ringing. Why don't you come by anymore? We don't ever see you. What is going on? And transitioning my replacements to do my job it takes time. It takes, you built up a lot of trust. You built up a lot of relationships that you don't want to turn over, and you don't want to lose them because the value of a salesperson are relationships, right?
That's right.
So when you work for a massive company and you climb the ladder, and when you're in sales all those years before, your worth is your value is your relationships with the customers. And when you're moving up, you start to feel like, well, I don't hear from those guys every day anymore. My sales team's hearing from
kind
them.
of a bummer.
And you start sitting there going, what's my value? You start questioning yourself. So you have to really step back, look at the big picture. My mentor and boss for many years was his comment to me was always, you gotta understand, Travis, you don't work in the business anymore. You work on the business and management.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And, it eased me because I was looking at it from this perspective of the role I had been in for so long. And, what he was wanting me to do was initially saying was, you need to start looking at the 5-year plan, not what we're going to sell today. What are we going to sell in 5 years? How are we going to get to the next level of sales and the volumes and the goals that we're putting forth? And so it's part of building that plan. And, and now in the new role, it's at a national level, not just the district level I was at. So it's been it's very exciting. It's a little bit of a clean slate, and how do I start? Where do I start? And it's a lot of go back to the basic fundamentals that I already know. But, as you step to new places in life, you have to, take a deep breath and go, I know how to do this. I just need to remember how to redirect it, right?
That's right. And you worked as a regional guy. You worked with the national guy before you.
Yeah, still do.
And so you saw what was happening, how he functioned.
Yeah.
And so you have a little bit of a roadmap, but now all of a sudden, how do you put your fingerprints on it?
Exactly. And, how do you change is scary for everybody within the organization, because a lot of the guys that I'm working with now, you know, we were peers. They were my peers. We would get together and we would all work for the previous sales manager, who's still with the organization. He just redirected to a different task, and I have meetings with him weekly, and we kind of talk about what I'm doing, my vision, and how he ran things. And you know, that transition is just challenging, because all the other sales managers across the country, you know, we were all equal playing field for the last 15 years, and then I get a promotion, and there's a lot of...
How tough is that? You know,
it's like anything else. It's the message, it's the interaction, it's the reassurance that, hey, I'm not here to, you know, drive a hammer. I'm here to, you know, how do we get better? How do we get aligned? How do we develop a plan to get us to the next level?
Yes. When all you guys were together, and there's probably a lot of pointing fingers at the guy on top, and then how do you reconcile? Well, guys, I'm still one of you. Do you feel that attitudes have changed?
I think initially my phone rang, you know, when the announcement came out, and it was like, what exactly do you do? And I'm like, hey, wait a minute, I don't know yet. That's a little early to be asking me that question. I'm figuring that out. So there was a little, you know, I'm not going to say animosity by any means,
right.
Because, you know, a lot of them didn't even put their name in the hat for it. So it's hard to be, you know, frustrated with something you didn't apply for. But, you know, it's like anything else. It's communicating effectively and having those conversations. And if there is some apprehension or you feel a little bit of resentment that you're in that role, then you talk about it, you know, don't sit on it.
And I think that's a good manager,
right?
Talking about it.
Communicating.
Communicating.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Right.
Do you find that there are some guys that they don't want to leave that day-to-day boots on the ground dealing with the customers? They just want to stay in that role, that forget about making that next step.
Yeah, I think any good salesperson goes through that. I struggled with it, you know, when I was asked to move up to a regional sales manager. It took me a while to decide if I wanted to do that, because especially if you're in a commission role and you can drive your own income, it's hard to walk away from, because that's your destiny, right? You control it.
That's right.
When you get into sales management, it's the same thing, but now you're driving a team and you're dealing with personalities. And the hardest thing about running any business, whether it be sales management or you know, a mom and pop shop down on Main Street, it's always the people and the personalities and you know, and just everybody's got a different one, and you had to manage them all differently.
You know, it's tough enough dealing with the personalities with customers, and then, you know, now you got to figure out how to take this team and make sure they're all rah-rah and going and not going. Look, you were just here last week. Don't think you can teach me something new.
Right.
But, you know, that's what happens when you get that one, like, even though he's a great sales guy, what happens for you, if this guy's phenomenal, but he's a cancer, and he really is so self-centered and wants, you know, and you go, oh my God, and he's poisoning some of the other guys. I mean, that's probably the toughest.
Well, it's just funny because I can relate to, and I think anybody that's been in this trade or managed people can relate to almost any circumstance and any human interaction. But I had that situation with one of our top salesmen who actually has replaced me in my role, and he super smart individual. And when I hired him, we grew up together. I knew him very well. I knew he'd be great for the job. I thought he might be overqualified for the job. But we had sat down and had a talk, and the first thing I told him was, you're going to be the smartest guy in the room in most rooms. You just are. I mean, he's a brilliant guy. And that's concerning to me, because you can't be perceived as the smartest guy in the room, especially coming in an industry you're not familiar with. And you're talking about guys that have dedicated their life to this trade, and you come in and you picked up on it pretty quick, but you don't have a lot of history in it, right? And you got to learn how to navigate that. And we had that conversation before I hired him, and he took it to heart. And I was really concerned. It was a very big concern of mine. What we didn't have to talk about was how you act around your peers too. You know, how that's going to, when you climb the ladder and you get to be the top dog in the country, how do you treat your peers in the market, and how do they perceive you? Because you may manage them someday. and you want them to respect you, and you want to have a good working relationship with them. So, he excelled to the top on sales, which I knew he would, and he took the advice very well about how to maintain, his ego, so to speak, in a boardroom or whatever. But we had a little bit of a struggle on the transition when he started to manage our team that he had been a part of for the past 10 years. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, again, it's communicating effectively, honestly. If I wouldn't have told him how I felt, I would have beat around the bush from day one. It could have been a whole different outcome. So.
Yeah, and so, that's the thing about management. And, it's much better you cut to the chase. This is the problem. If you beat around the bush, it's going to look like you got a cut on your finger, right?
Yep.
And you don't ever really take care of
affected.
it. Yes, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And some people are just not good at communicating, and they're scared to do that. But if you will take that step and go talk to that person, make that conscious choice, I have to do it. It may be uncomfortable because life's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But you got to do it. And, you found out the good way, right?
I found out.
Because it's hard to talk to people.
Right. You can say the good way, but I mean, through life experience, I found out the hard way. I mean, when I got into the sales role in an industry that was, training was not really a thing. The training was, here's your literature, here's your customer base. How about it?
Yeah,
that's how it was.
Let's talk about this because this is important. We're going to now regress back, not regress, but we're going to go to some of the fun times. You grew up a young man. You're big. You're a big dude. How tall are you?
I'm 6'5", about 240.
Okay. Well, I mean, you would be an intimidating factor in high school as an athlete.
One would think.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that really wasn't my path. I as big as I am today, I don't feel like a big guy because I spent my high school years and my most, my developmental years being the smallest guy. I was my junior year in high school. I was 5'3". I'm sorry, 5'6", 115 pounds. My first driver's license, my junior year. So I was an extremely late bloomer.
You're kidding me.
No, and when I went to my 10-year reunion, nobody, and I'm not exaggerating, nobody were like, who are you? And I sat in class with you. Oh my
Wait a minute.
So unless I hung out with them after high school,
yeah,
the change was drastic.
So the girls is the key here. They're probably like going, what, did I screw up? I should have just waited another year, and I knew you were going to become.
But it was very awkward for me too because I was just. It took me a while to get comfortable in the in the new body. It just did. Because it was just so different to me, and in my mind, I was the little kid on the field.
And it's so different. Personally, I remember playing football and baseball, and I was a late bloomer, and I was so fast. And then all of a sudden, my senior year, my legs started growing, and I started growing. I grew like 8 inches.
Yeah.
And I was a mess. I was wondering what happened. I couldn't run as fast anymore. And you're an athlete, so tell me about that path because you went on to play baseball.
I did.
In college
I was a kid, that you couldn't pull off the field. I just loved the sport. We spent the movie The Sandlot. That's how we can relate to that movie. That's kind of how we lived our childhood.
What position did you play?
Well, growing up, I was shortstop, and then got into high school and literally got cut from my freshman team. I didn't even make the team.
Wow.
Went back, had to swallow my pride, and I literally went home after I got cut, cried in my mom's lap. Should be saying this on this podcast.
No, you should, you big baby. I can see now.
So and she said, well, go back and you need to go and talk to the coach and ask him why he cut you. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. So I went in and just, I can remember that day, like I could smell the grass still, walking up, and the coach is working on the field, and I went up and I said, Coach Reed, trying to fight back the tears, and I was like, why did you cut me? And he said, this was a very humbling thing he said to me. We had a little talk, and he said, you know what, Hitzeman, you're not going to help the team. Well, I'm sorry, going. And he said, you're not going to help the team, but you're not going to hurt the team either. So I'm going to give you a spot. And I was just like, yeah, and then I was I'm getting home. My mom's picking me up in the car, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm not going to help the team. But you know what? I was so happy to have the opportunity and the
Yes.
chance.
Yeah.
And I could have easily not taken my mom's advice and gone and taken that step. That was a tough step for a ninth grader.
Very
A
intimidating.
ninth grader built like a fifth grader to walk up there and say,
Yes.
because he was kind of an intimidating guy.
I mean, this is a good lesson here.
Yeah, I mean
Right.
that's life things that kind of build up, that you build some self-esteem, and
Because what would have happened if you would have tucked your tail
Yeah.
and never went back, and you would have that would have been like that cut festering, and you always would have had the regret.
Right. I might have gone into dancing. Who knows? You never know. So,
Hey,
yeah.
we always need another male ballerina.
So I was on the team for all through high school. I went to a big school in Tulsa, Jenks, and they're kind of a powerhouse when it comes to athletics. Most of the guys on our team, the seniors on our team, went to Division I schools, and I always had the skills. I was a great ball player, fundamentally. I just didn't have the size or anything to really back it up.
Mm-hmm.
So after high school, I didn't have an offer. I didn't know where to go. But I just loved to play. So I got onto a men's league team just to play the game, and I started to grow. And I started hitting the ball, and it started going a little bit further, and then I started hitting out of the park.
Now, you were in college at this point.
Yeah, I was in a community college in Tulsa.
Okay.
And I was just playing for fun. And one of the guys on the team that I went to high school with was a guy who had gone to Missouri Valley College. He was playing football there, small school. And he said, "You should come up and meet the coach." I mean, he basically said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna sign you, or we're gonna offer you a scholarship."
Wow.
Sight unseen before we wouldn't even play, just because my size, he knew, he could see where I was developing.
Right.
And then we went to a little tryout, and the rest is history. But I was just happy to be playing. I never in my mind at that point was I thinking, I'm going to play professional baseball someday. Never. I was just happy to be playing, and the opportunity to play in college.
The love of the game itself.
And get the college experience, and open up the opportunity for a bunch of relationships that are still very important to me today. I mean, I have 3 or 4 of my fraternity brother college buddies that work with me, not because they were my fraternity brothers and my friends, because I knew they would be great for the role. Just based on their character.
Yeah.
Their character and the experience I've had with them. And, they interviewed with everybody else, and all of them interviewed against 5 or 6 different candidates. And a couple of them I interviewed as a courtesy interview, thinking, I don't know if this guy's really the fit. I mean, he's a good friend, and I know he would be good, but we have some really good candidates, and we go through the process, and they won it outright. I get a lot of that flack in our, I shouldn't say flag, but I get comments like, "Oh, you hire all your friends." I'm like, no, I hire people that I know will be good at the job. I know what the job entails. I know what it takes, and I know this guy's character, or a girl's character, and I believe they'll excel. And it's been a good recipe.
Believe me, that's why you've moved up that chain.
It's just networking, right?
That's right, and honesty though.
Right.
Being honest enough to go, no, these guys. You know who they are, the character-wise.
Yeah.
And that's so important. More than, they say sales is a gift that you get, when you're born. It's not. No. The nerves and stuff you can overcome. Learning techniques you can overcome. All of this stuff, right? You can learn how to deal with people. But one of the biggest flaws is character, and that's sometimes hard to shake.
And willpower. I mean, it gets harder and harder to find a young person today that wants to get out and pound the pavement and really wants to put forth the effort and make a name for themselves and drive as a sales team, or not a team, just a sales position, a job.
Yeah. So did you find? Okay, here we go. How old were you when you got cut from the team? What were you, 7th grade, 8th? What did you say you were?
Well, 9th grade.
9th grade.
It was a high school team, yeah.
You had to learn how to sell that coach. It was sales.
I don't know if I...
You did.
Yeah, I guess.
With your face going, what did I do wrong?
Yeah, I felt like he was a little bit of pity, but he sells sometimes.
Listen, pity, you got to take what you can get, whatever it takes.
Well, it was great. After I went and played in college and I had grown, I'd come back in the summer and I would call Coach Breed and ask him if I'd come hit and we'd go work out. And he was so into me at that point, like, man, I can't believe how much you've grown and your skills. And it was cool because it was almost like self-gratification of like, hey, dude, you should.
He gave you
Right.
the shot, which changed your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? Okay, so you played college ball, and, how was that experience? Now all of a sudden you have size. I really want to hear about when you went back to high school and met all the girls again, and as they were like salivating over you.
Yeah, it was.
That's a pretty good feeling.
It was a fun night. There's no doubt.
But
my wife wouldn't. She didn't find it to be so amusing.
Oh, you were married then? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, honey.
Well, she had never known me, so she just couldn't wrap her head around like, what are they talking about? Like, what do you mean they don't know you? I'm like, they don't know, they don't remember me this way at all.
Yeah, that's so wild.
Yeah, it was.
So you go play college. How was your college ball career? Was that as far as you thought you were going to go? And tell me what that experience was like.
As my freshman year, we had a pretty good team. Got a really good coach at the time, and I was playing on the JV team, and they called me up to play on the varsity when we got to when we made to the semifinals of the finals in the tournament. And at that point, I'd hit a fair amount of home runs on the JV team, so they really put me in this role of, all right, we're going to pinch hit you. And when we pinch hit, it was basically like, you're going to hit a home run. I mean, it was that kind of pressure.
Thanks a lot.
They didn't say it, but they kind of did. And so that was a whole, I didn't have any real
There's some
success.
pressure there.
Oh, it was huge pressure. And I'm still growing into, and like, this whole situation that happened, this whole transformation from, in 1 year, from never hitting a ball out of the park to now playing in a college, tournament and asking, pinch hitting in a clutch time for a big hit, and I'm out there overswinging, over trying, and didn't really have a lot of success doing that, but I was recognized as that, so that built a little confidence, even though I failed.
Sure.
I knew that they saw something in me that I needed to hone, and I worked a lot at it. We were at a small school, not a lot of great facilities to just continue to, I couldn't go sit in the batting cages and hit all night long with a coach. It wasn't that. It was, you really had to find your place to do that and put in that effort.
All right. So as a coach, when you look back at that, how would you have handled that situation? Would you have thrown that 19-year-old kid into the fire? Or, how do you, because that's a tough spot to put a kid.
Yeah, but also as a coach, that's just part of the
That's
fluff,
your
right?
job.
It's like, when do you call in the pitcher? When do you people get pinch hit for all the time? And again, they didn't understand where my head was and what I had, where I had come from, that I had grown this much and had hit my first home run literally 8 months ago in a men's league. You know what I mean? They didn't really know all that. They knew what they've seen me do in JV games and
do you think
practice.
It would be important for a manager to get to know his kids, like you get to know your salesman, their history?
I mean, I think it definitely helps. There's no question.
I mean, for those young coaches out there, right?
I mean,
it's good to know where someone's come from, because the baseball, all sports, but there's a lot of head game going on.
Time.
And, just from having friends with the Rangers and, at that level, there's some pretty screwed up guys that for some reason, if it's in their head, forget about it. Like golf, right?
Yeah, golf's. I mean, baseball is such a mental game.
It's so,
and then it was my downfall. I mean, as it just really was, and I didn't realize at the time the mental aspect, how important that was, and I didn't really work on that as much as I did the physical skills. If I look,
how are you going to know at 20 years old?
Right. And you don't have a coach that recognizes it, and I think that's a big miss, and in collegiate sports probably. But yeah,
they just start to expect things, and they go, okay, he needs to know how to hit this home run when he gets out. I
mean, I know you do have a bunch of friends that are Rangers, and I think if you talk to those guys about how they approach the game mentally, there's a science to that. That is a big part of success, and being a major league hitter or pitcher or whatever, major league player altogether. It is a very mental, draining game.
But do you see a correlation between life and that, that mental game? Because sales is a mental game too.
For sure. There's no
And
doubt.
and how do people that have come up in sports take what they've learned here and transfer it over to here?
Right. If you're going to get detoured by a hitting slump, then sales is probably not your career path. Because you're going to take a lot of no's before you get that yes, right?
Yeah.
In sales. So yeah, I think everything in life's mental, and everything's attitude. Right?
Yeah.
You wake up every day, you have a choice. I'm going to be a positive attitude, or I'm going to be a negative attitude. And whatever I decide to do that day is how my day is going to go. I guarantee you that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Whether it's sports or business.
right. And so
Right.
many people just wake up, woe is me, or something's not fair, and it's like, well, you kind of set the stage for the day. You're waiting for somebody else to derive your happiness instead of you, and that's on you.
No, I mean, that's so important. And like today, I don't feel like being in this Senate. I'm done. I'm just going to leave.
Hey,
See ya.
guess this is going poorly.
No, listen, those lessons are so valuable in everything we do in life, right? That positive attitude. And they go, oh, that's, the sports philosophies. Well, no, it's every day when you get up, because we're just lucky to be
Right.
waking up every day. And when you start to get, my age, a lot of your friends ain't waking up every day.
Right.
And you kind of
Right.
go, oh my gosh, I got to take a second look at this, and I don't know, it sounds redundant because everybody hears it, but you look at the people in California that their entire lives, are gone because their homes got burned down, and like entire neighborhoods, thousands of people.
Yeah,
And,
I can imagine.
what do you,
That's a hard day to wake up and be positive. There's no question about it.
yeah, I guess you count your fingers and your toes and your kids' fingers and toes and go, okay, well, we're all here. Think about that psychological hurdles that they have to overcome. And,
And you see so many of them do it. You really do. You see a lot of people rise out of that and move on with life, and maybe even excel to a whole other level, because you learn from every experience. So you have to make the choice if you're going to learn from it. It as impactful negatively as it could be, there's a life lesson out of it. There always is, but you have to be looking for it and willing to look at it from that point of view, rather than just
for
roll it
sure.
over. And
Well, you've been a leader all the way going down this path. And tell me about how you do that because now you have to recognize all these people that work with you. And you got to go, okay, have you had to step into those situations where you had to have like life talks, with guys that
not
are,
my new role yet, and I'm sure it'll happen. But
no, but in your career, in those where you were with the boots on the ground,
right.
it seems like there's a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of that day-to-day stress on a lot of people.
Yeah, and it's not even always with one of my sales team members. A lot of times that is, but it can be a lot of times it's with a customer, that's going through the shoe. And
yes.
you're talking through life situations or business situations, and you're kicking out ideas and you're listening. The biggest part of it is listening. Let people talk, and and they're going to play into their needs, right? You're going to play into what's going to set them off, that you can
Right.
understand whether I can help, whether you're selling or whether looking to find a way to help and figure out how you can fit yourself into a solution. You have to listen. Most salespeople walk into a room and they just shoot all their information and product knowledge out to a fire hose, right? And half the stuff they're pitching, their customers doesn't need. It's not relevant to
Yeah.
them. So you're wasting your time, you're wasting their time, and recognizing that and just slowing down and listening is the number one skill of a successful salesperson, hands down.
See, that's a powerful tool, and we hadn't talked about that. We talked about having the story and understanding your product, but understanding your customer is even more valuable.
Yeah. I mean, that's the goal, right? You got to understand
Yeah.
what their needs are.
Because they will tell you what they want.
If you let them talk, they will
just-
tell you what they want.
Just let them.
Yeah.
And then let them sell themselves.
And let them be their idea,
Yes.
because you can let them speak, and they'll tell you their little points that are their selling points if you'll just let them talk, and then you can. That's a great idea. I have a solution for that.
Yeah. Instead of trying to be the guy, the hero guy, the ego guy,
Yeah.
be the the listener.
Be the listener and just let them sell themselves to you, and then and that's really it. And it's hard to get that through a young salesperson who wants to show how valuable they are because of the product knowledge they have or their education or whatever. And it becomes a me rather than it's really all about you, the customer, and what are your needs? I mean, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to sell you something, and I can't sell you something you don't need.
That's right. Yeah, and what happens if you go and oversell this customer? Well, he isn't going to want to buy back from you. You've tricked him into...
You're a used car salesman at that point, right?
That's it.
That's it.
What is the best gift that you can give a sales guy too, right? On how do you make that next step? Because you came out of Ball and went right to a job. You were a salesman.
Yep.
What are you going to tell those guys?
Man, that's tough because we relate it to my path, and my path was,
which is important.
It was all. My path had a lot that led to my success was the people that crossed my path and recognizing, not knowing really where it was going to end up, but recognizing relationships that were valuable, that they saw something in me that I hadn't even seen in myself yet, and they gave me more opportunities, and they coached me through that. So recognizing a good, strong relationship of people with integrity, people with a good work ethic, because you're going to see them every day in whatever line you're in, and you're going to see a lot of snakes, and you're going to see a lot of people that are really prefer to see you fail, and you're going to find those diamonds in the rough that want to see you succeed and want to lift you up.
So most important, whether you call them mentors or whatever, friends, but to listen to these guys.
Oh yeah.
And trust them. That's what you would tell a young Travis.
Right.
Because I know there was questions out there as you were going into work. You had to get a job.
Oh yeah. I think people spend more time doubting themselves on a daily basis. I mean, it's just, am I good enough to be in this role? Do I have the skills? Am I smart enough? And they play in their heads another head game.
Yeah.
They play themselves out of the success moving forward. And it takes it takes a long time to figure that out and understand it,
Mm-hmm.
And it really helped. I mean, it's people interactions and meeting good quality people that have their own stories of struggle and bring themselves to the top, and then and relating to them and communication. I mean, that's just it. Effective communication with some integrity.
That communication between people made all the difference in the world. I see that's clearly the vision, and I think if we all, that's how we understand. You want to be successful, love what you do,
right,
and give it all you got. Love the people you're dealing with, and it'll give you tenfold back.
Right.
But if you kind of hate it and you go, I just got to get through this thing, you're not going to like the people.
You're going to run into those customers that are difficult.
Of course.
They're mean. They're, they want to cut you down. And I love that challenge because it's like, okay, now I have a whole new approach, right? Now I got to see, my goal at this point is I'm not worried about selling my product. I want to sell this guy on me. And my goal literally turns into, I want to make this guy smile or laugh. If not today, next time I come back.
That's it.
I'm going to make him crack a little bit and break down his armor of whatever he's hiding, his insecurities of his own that he's doing, whatever it is, to start to build on a relationship. And that some of those guys have become some of my best friends, or not best friends, but best customers.
Sure.
And great relationships, because most people will turn from that, with their tail between their legs and go, I'm not going to go call on that guy anymore. And I was told many times, don't go see so-and-so. He's too difficult. He's an ass or whatever. And that to me was always like, all right, it's a challenge.
That's the challenge.
Yeah. And, stuff like that was a drive for me. I never realized how it was affecting me, how it was kind of honing my skills. It was just, for me, it was just like, oh, there's a challenge that I wanted to take on. How can I make this guy like me? It wasn't about the company. It was like, I want him to like me. It was almost like a desperate, I want him to like me. And it really wasn't it. I wanted the challenge. Of course. I wanted the challenge to show my reps and other people that were and not at this time I was a sales guy, but so my manufacturer reps, people that were telling me not to waste my time, don't go in there. I wanted to show them that, hey, you give up on people way too easy. There's an opportunity here. They're buying something from somebody.
That's right. Well, that's fantastic. And so we're going to wrap this up, but I always have to tell you guys some of the most important things for me and to my heart is our little furry friends that we have at home, our cats and dogs, and we want to take care of them because they're the ones that take care of us, and make sure you take the time to love on them. And especially when you come home and those little tails are wagging when you come home, and get down on their level, give them a hug, and let them know how much they do for you. Because really we forget about what they do for us because it's just they're there and they're there giving you love. They're not arguing with you. They're not telling you, oh, I don't want to hear about your bad day. They're just loving on you. So give them that love back. Gaze in their eyes, the most important thing ever, because they think of you as their mom, dad. You're all they got. So when they gaze in your eyes, they're really thinking that's the love that they're giving you. So give it back to them at least for 5 or 10 seconds. And get your pups spayed and neutered because there's too many wild dogs out there. And if they get out, we want to control that population and make sure you adopt, don't shop. Any dog you want, any kind of dog you want, you can get at your local shelter, or go to therescuetv.com, and we'll help you get whatever kind of dog you want because they're all out there. It's pretty crazy. So that's my little bit. Travis, thanks so much for coming in. It was fun times. And I appreciate you taking us on your journey.
I appreciate you letting me.
Yeah.